muffle them somehow if you've got them on vibrate. This meeting is being webcasted. If you would like to provide public comment, please fill out a speaker slip in the back of the room and give it to Miss Sewell. There she is. Great. I would now like to call this meeting to order. Ms. Lowe, would you call the roll, please? Dr. Burns? Ms. Ehrlich?
Here.
Ms. Marcelin?
Here.
Ms. Webster?
Here.
Ms. Yarosowski?
Present.
Ms. Farlon? Here. Thank you. So, agenda item 2 is public comment on items that are not on today's agenda. And you might note that the council may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during this public comment section that is not included on this agenda, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Is there any public comment on items not on the agenda? All right, seeing none, let's move forward to agenda item 3. Approval of August 14th Midwifery Advisory Council meeting minutes. Are there... Okay. All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any comments? Ms. Lowe, did anybody submit comments to you? Thank you.
Prior to today's meeting, MAC members did submit some minor edits, and I'll just go through them quickly that we will be changing in the minutes. On page 2 of the minutes, the second line from the bottom beginning with Ms. Farlon continued, the word was will be changed to were. On page 4 of the minutes, about 2/3 of the way down the page, the sentence beginning with Ms. Ehrlich questioned, the words was going to will be changed to would. So the sentence would now read, Ms. Ehrlich questioned if there would be any additional types of information included in the packet. On page 5 of the minutes, the second paragraph, the spelling of Ms. Ehrlich's name will be corrected. Those were all of the submitted changes.
Are there any changes, requests for changes from any council members? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, can I have a vote to approve the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the minutes have been approved. Thank you. So the next agenda item is my report. You're all lucky today because it's really brief and hopefully won't raise too much controversy. Many positive steps have been taken this year towards implementing the changes required by AB 1308. All groups that are interested parties to the current regulatory process, midwives, consumers, physicians, and the medical board itself, have the same goal: creating as safe an environment for birthing families as is possible, while allowing them the freedom of autonomy to weigh their options and make choices appropriate to their own circumstances. As we continue moving forward with these changes, it is therefore of utmost importance that we balance safety for birthing women and families with the imposition of requirements that compromise their autonomy without changing their course of care for the better. We need to constantly ask the question, how will this requirement increase consumer safety or improve the course of care? Requirements imposed on consumers that don't meet this test have no place in the regulations now being crafted. Additionally, any departure from or change to previous regulations that were imposed to improve safety for consumers should only be undertaken with good evidence that change would increase safety for birthing women and their families. I look forward to the continuing work of this council as we move into 2015, and I am certain the current regulatory process will produce a product that will protect both the safety and autonomy of California birthing families. Are there any questions from council members? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, we're going to move to the next agenda item. So the next agenda item is supposed to be presented by Dr. Byrne. It's an update on the new board packet task force. I'm the other member of that task force, so I'm going to present on that. At the last Midwifery Advisory Council meeting, we presented a 3 or 4 page form that compared licensed midwives with certified nurse midwives in California. And it was decided that it would be more helpful to have a 1-page form So that form is available. I think it was provided all the council members on the desk here. It looks like this and should be in the back of the room as well for audience members. I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt this form so we can discuss it. Great. Are there any council comments on this form?
Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Byrne and his committee for this. It makes it a whole lot easier for the layperson to take a look at it and understand, and therefore I'm sure it'll make it easier for the professionals as well. But I want to thank you for making sure this happened, and to thank those members of the staff as well as Dr. Byrne's committee for putting this together.
Right. Are there any comments from the audience? Any other comments from the council? All right. We take a vote on this. All in favor of submitting this form to the full board for approval?
Aye.
All in favor, aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion carries. So now we have an update on midwife assistant language proposal from Ms. Mose.
Thank you. So I did have the language and the proposal, and what we kind of do here at the medical board is we give the BMP committees, we show them the language for the proposals we're going to do for the following year and kind of find out from them if they're interested in taking it. So I've done that, and it's with Assembly BMP right now. There's recently been some changes. There's some committee appointments made yesterday, and BMP is splitting up. So it's going to be in Assembly, it's going to be Business and Professions. And there's a new committee, Privacy and Consumer Protection. So we're kind of finding out where we fall in those two committees. And so once that's a little, we kind of understand what committee our stuff is going to go to, and then we'll be working with the appropriate committee, showing that language, and then if they're not interested, then I'll be pursuing authors. So if anyone has an author, a legislator that they think would be interested in this, I encourage you to let me know.
I have a question. I had expected, I don't think my mic is on. I had expected that we would see that language here today.
Yes, indeed. I had expected that we would see that language here today. I'm surprised that it wasn't in our packet.
We got the language at the August meeting. I don't think it's changed.
It hasn't changed
It
at all?
hasn't changed.
No.
It's that same language that I got from Carrie and Ms. Webb and Ms.
Okay.
Farragon. I just basically gave a little synopsis of why it's needed, and it was taken from our Sunset Review report, and then I attached that to the language, and that's kind of, when you approach an author, usually the background on why it's needed and the language, and then that's kind of how you shop for an author. So that's what I'll use. If BNP is not interested, then I'll take that to authors and see if I can find someone that's interested.
Okay. One of the reasons that I am interested in that, and for whatever reason my brain is not remembering that we saw this language last time, or I would have brushed up on it. I don't know whether this would simply fall into the purview of the language that has already been proposed. But there are a certain number of women in the state of California who are certified professional midwives who have not gone for licensure by the medical board. But these are women who have gone through training, experience, and have passed the exam that is the licensing exam for midwives in California.
Let me help
But
you.
they don't have licenses, and I would just like to see that those CPMs who are choosing not to get licensed would be an automatic okay that they could be hired as midwifery assistants in California.
The way the language is written, Karen, is that there's two methods for becoming a midwife assistant. One is a school that would actually run a program similar to what medical assistants do, and the other one is that midwives could train and certify their own assistants. So that would be that route that they would need.
I appreciate that. I just don't think there should have to be any hoops for
Well,
those women.
it is.
all.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be happy to send the language out to members if anyone wants a refresher on the language.
I'm sure I have it because I have the packet from last time, but I wouldn't mind receiving it. Thank you.
Which committees did you say might be here?
BNP, I'm not sure with the Assembly with the split which one, but BNP, so Senate and Assembly.
Thank you. Is there any comment from the audience on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'm going to keep marching forward here. Agenda item 7 is an update on certified nurse midwife to licensed midwife entry. Ms. Kirkmeyer and Ms. Simoes, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon. We just wanted to let you know, we went back as staff and we really looked at this issue of moving over the certified nurse midwives into a licensure category under licensed midwives. And in looking at it, what we thought was a regulatory change. We actually think it may be a legislative change that is needed. However, Ms. Simoes and I, in our travels at the Capitol, have found out that we believe that certified nurse midwives may be going forward next year with a bill that would release them from the physician supervision, similar to what the licensed midwives have done in the past year, probably with some requirements similar to what happened with the licensed midwives. And so at this time, we don't think it's prudent for the medical board to move forward with this legislative proposal, because we believe that there may be the opportunity for those CNMs to fit into the same category. We know there were a lot of issues that came up because of, would they be practicing as a CNM or an LM, and all of the issues with that. And so we actually believe that this would be something that should wait, and it may also be something that, even if it doesn't go through for the CNMs, it may be something that shouldn't be carried by the board, but may need to be carried by the certified nurse midwives themselves. So that's kind of where we are on that.
Do you have something to add?
No, just that there seems to be a lot of legislative interest in this by more than one legislative office, so it's highly probable that someone will at least take on this issue. It may not be in exactly the form that Kim and I were talked to about, but it sounds like it is going to be addressed this year. So
Yeah, I would be very surprised if the CNMs couldn't get supervision removed at this point, but I'm curious to understand why maybe it would just be too problematic to approve all of their schools. Because that we could do regulatory, because we just need to approve the schools by the board, but that could be a real headache. And I really do sort of agree with your decision that if they're going forward and they are going to possibly remove supervision from their law, then it seems pointless for us to all spin our wheels here on getting them their LN. Are there any other comments from council members?
My biggest comment is in support of those certified nurse midwives who are eager for this to happen for them, because they are functioning essentially outside of their scope of practice and their law, and they were really hopeful that they were going to be able to find a way to function within terms of law. I think they are going to be extremely disappointed that this is not moving forward quickly.
Even if we had decided to move forward with it, and let's say it was a regulatory change, even rather than if we're correct in our review of the laws and regulations, it had to be a legislative change, it would be happening at the same time as them taking it themselves. Even if it was a regulatory change, it would have to go to the board, it would have to be set for a hearing, and the time frames are almost exactly about the same. Yeah.
So I have a question. By this going forward under different auspices, does that mean that maybe we should hold up on what we're doing and go through with that process?
We should not move forward to try to get
Right.
the certified nurse midwives training
Removed, but I'm saying the
the
legislation
same
that
as licensed midwives.
the licensed midwives, that legislation will go forward. I'm asking, should it stop and go
No,
through that?
no,
Okay,
and
I'm just
really the
asking.
licensed midwife legislation is all moved forward. What we're looking at now are just the regulations
Okay.
pursuant to AB 1308 changes, so.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Are there any comments from the public? All right. Any others from the council members? All right, seeing none, we're going to move forward. Ms. Lowe is going to give us an update on the licensed midwives interested parties meeting that happened in October.
Thank you. On October 15th, the board held an interested parties meeting here at the board to discuss the needed regulations for the transfer of planned out-of-hospital delivery to hospital reporting form, as well as the regulations to define pre-existing maternal disease or condition likely to affect a pregnancy and significant disease arising from a pregnancy. There was an impressive turnout for the meeting and quite a bit of discussion regarding the defining of pre-existing maternal disease or condition. However, due to the lengthy discussions that ensued on specific items, we were unable to address the reporting form at that time. As it was clear during that meeting that additional interested parties meetings would need to be held, We've scheduled another meeting that will be on December 15th here at the board's headquarters, and that meeting agenda has been posted and notice has been sent out to those on the subscribers list. During that meeting, we will be covering the same items as at the previous one, and we're hopeful that individuals will be able to come to consensus regarding the language so that we can move forward with the regulatory process. At this time, that's all I have for the update on the meeting.
The next interested parties meeting regarding this is on the 15th of this month, correct?
Correct, December 15th.
And are we going to address both issues again?
We're
Or try
hopeful to. So we would like the individuals involved with meeting and coming up with what they're wanting to hopefully come prepared at that meeting so that we can move through this and get somewhere this time.
Are there any, is there any input from council members? All right. I have Jean Anderson, licensed midwife, Southern California Midwives. Southern California Midwives.
Yes, I practice primarily in Detroit County.
Your microphone.
There's a little button down. Yeah.
Oh, no,
He's trying to put it on.
So I'm a licensed midwife. I practice primarily in Ventura County. I'm here, like you said, to represent midwives in Southern California, and I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. A little nervous. So traditionally, parents have the right to make choices they feel are in the best interests of their family, their children, and this right is recognized in our society as an integral part of parenthood. I think about things like where they're going to live, what type of schooling they're going to receive, the foods that they're going to eat. Even though one segment of society may think that what their choices are detrimental, that doesn't remove their right to do those kind of things. And the very first choice that parents make for their child is where and how the child will be born and who will be the care provider. And I think everybody here agrees with that. The California Code of Regulations, Title 22, Section 72527 and 72528, guarantees patients the right to receive all information that is material to an individual patient's decision concerning whether to accept or to refuse any proposed treatment or procedure. The patient has the right to accept or refuse the proposed treatment. By restricting a woman's access to alternative childbearing care such as midwifery versus obstetric, we're denying them their basic rights as consumers and parents. The ACOG Committee Opinion Number 166 from December of 1995 concurs with this. Once the patient has been informed about material risks and benefits of a treatment, the patient has the right to exercise full autonomy and decide whether to undergo a treatment or to make a choice among a variety of acceptable treatments. In the exercise of that autonomy, the informed patient also has the right to refuse to undergo any treatment. That constitutes informed refusal. Without the patient's permission, procedures that are forced then upon the patient constitute battery under common law. AB 1308 removes the childbearing woman's right to informed consent and denial. Section 2507 sets limits regarding the midwifery attended birth of twins, breeches, and births occurring outside of the estimated gestational window of 37.0 and 42.0. Even when the childbearing woman has been clearly informed of the risks and benefits, she is forbidden to retain midwifery care according to Section 2507(3)(b). This forces her to choose care which may be contrary to her wishes and therefore can be interpreted to constitute battery. Others may choose to birth unassisted, which has not been shown to be in the best interest of the childbearing woman or her unborn child. Laws are to be protective of the public interest and not coerce those under them into poor decisions. AB 1308 is an illegal repeal of our standard of care, which was pushed through the legislature without the full knowledge and consent of many midwives. The proposed added regulations to AB 1308, which are now being considered as defining the Section 25071A and 1 and 2, only compound this problem, requiring a consult with an OBGYN in many instances who will then refer to another specialist for evaluation instead of allowing the midwife to decide if, when, and who should be seen for the variations that occur during her antepartum care, places an unwarranted financial burden and additional stress on the childbearing woman with unnecessary appointments and fees for those services. This makes midwifery care burdensome for those who choose it and was never the intention of the Licensed Midwives Practice Act. AB 350 and SB 1479 allowed for unfettered public access of self-selected women to midwifery care. Yet AB 1308 denies them their preferred choice of care if they decline a licensed midwife's mandated advice to go see an OB. Midwives are schooled in differential diagnosis during our California state-approved training programs, which we must complete before we can be licensed. AB 1308 does not allow us to make differential diagnosis, but in fact turns that over to the OBGYN physicians. Many OBs have never even seen a truly natural childbirth. They are trained in abnormality and surgery. Midwives are trained in normal, healthy birth and can best determine when a pregnancy remains normal and when consultations are needed, to whom the woman should be referred. We spend many hours counseling, comforting, and listening to our clients, providing continuity of care, emphasizing normalcy and healthy lifestyles to maintain that normalcy. Most of us enjoy, or would be happy to enjoy if made available, collaborative relationships not only with OBs, with other specialities as well, where we can seek counsel when we feel that we are out of our scope. No midwife I know wants to have a poor outcome, so we are careful to provide the very best of care. Our statistics show that we do. Many Southern California midwives do not feel that we have been adequately represented by CAM and do not want the Midwifery Council or the medical board to assume that the majority of midwives practicing in California always agree with the proposals that have been presented by CAM. When AB 1308 came to our attention late last year, a petition was signed by over 200 midwives asking that the bill not go through until there was more opportunity for input given to those of us who were directly affected. This was ignored. Many of us in Southern California had physician supervision prior to the adoption of AB 1308. And while we are happy to have that supervision removed and feel that it is in the best interest not only of midwifery but the community of childbearing women, many of us have retained our relationships, although now on a consultation basis, with our former supervising physicians, as well as having access for consultation with physicians in other specialities such as cardiologists, perinatologists, endocrinologists, as well as nutritionists, ultrasound centers, labs, etc. I hope that the medical board will promote access to support like this in all areas of California rather than placing additional burdens on childbearing women and the midwives who serve them. AB 08 is costly and burdensome to patients. AB 1308 does not allow for patient-informed consent in regards to declinations of procedures. Most of the proposed additional regulations of AB 1308 compound the problem of unfettered public access to midwifery care and should be removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. I know that you are speaking for a large number of midwives and families in California. Where I think that there is a misunderstanding both with the public and with some midwives is that AB 1308 was passed and the medical board has no authority whatsoever to change anything within it. If consumer groups want to organize with midwives to change parts of AB 1308 that they're in a disagreement with, they have every right to do that. But the medical board itself and this council don't have any ability to work outside of AB 1308. We have to follow its dictate and create a list of items that require physician referral as dictated by AB 1308. The other piece that I would say here is that AB 1308 regulates midwives. It hasn't removed anything from a woman's right to decide what care she is going to accept. All it does is say that if she wants to have her twins at home, she must find a licensed provider other than a midwife, a licensed midwife, to serve her, or she has to go it alone. Do I like that? No. But that's what the law says, and we can't change that here. So what I would encourage you to do, and your group to do, is to organize women, because it's consumers that the legislature is going to listen to change these things that you have disagreement with. But this isn't the venue for changing it. We don't have the ability to change it. All we have the ability to do here and at the interested parties meeting is to craft the best regulation we possibly can to serve birthing women and families, to protect their safety, and as best we can to assure their autonomy of choice in the birthing environment. And so I really, really would encourage you to attend the Interested Parties meeting on the 15th and to stay engaged in that at the same time that you're working to organize consumers to change the law.
I understand that, and I can't come to the one on the 15th, but we are talking with some other people in our group to try and have representation at that meeting. Part of what I was trying to say in this was that it's been difficult enough working within the restrictions of AB 1308 and having a woman who hits 42 weeks and then all of a sudden we can't take care of her anymore.
I understand.
I had a woman recently who set an alarm clock so that when she hit 37 weeks, she had a party so that she could have her baby at home. But I understand that's part of the law, but the regulations, the lists of regulations that I've seen and that those of us in our group have talked about seem to be adding even more and more burdensome restrictions.
That's a work in progress, and that's why consumers and midwives need to be at those interested parties meetings. That's where their voice is going to be heard regarding that regulatory process. If they don't show up and they don't speak, we don't know their mind.
One of the things
So
that's been
that's what's
very
really
difficult is that those of us in Southern California, we're a long way from Sacramento. It's very difficult to get up here.
I understand.
I know that in the past there were meetings that alternated between Northern and Southern California.
Yeah.
I would love to see that come back because it is so hard.
The medical board meets in 4 different places throughout the state during the year, but the Midwifery Advisory Council only meets here, and a lot of that I'm sure has to do with budgetary restrictions. You know, there's only so much money to go around. But those of us that come to these meetings and that sit on this council do come from quite a ways to be here. So I don't know what else to offer you. I'm sorry. Is there any comment from the council?
I would just like to state that I know that the meetings that I'm aware of that happened in Northern and Southern California were not anything having to do with the medical board or with the Midwifery Advisory Council. They were actually CAM. They were the California Association of Midwives meetings that we did for quite a while, tried to split between Northern and Southern so that more of the midwives could come. And there were budgetary issues, and a lot of times people didn't come even though they were in Southern California. So it's a difficult issue.
It's very difficult.
It's a very difficult issue, and many of us have been aware for a long time that there is this kind of Northern Southern California split. It's uncomfortable for all of us, and we don't like it either. We don't know how to make it better because there is this geographic split,
Yeah.
and Sacramento is here.
Yes.
All right, let's keep moving forward with our agenda. Thank you, Jean, for making the effort to come here and speak today. Faith Gibson?
Faith Gibson, California College Midwives. You will be happy to know that I'm speaking about something that you can do something about. And that is the next or any subsequent interested parties meetings. It is my understanding of our regulatory process that it is not owned by any particular special interest, neither midwives nor ACOG. And yet at the last interested parties meeting, we had the lawyer from the medical board and somebody from ACOG who were kind of like these twin officiating people at the meeting, as if ACOG was a decider organization, and I want to say that it isn't. is all of us together, that these regulations belong to the people of California, not to any special interest groups. And I would like either to not do that again, so my suggestion would be either that we would have a panel of one representative from each of the different organizations, Midwifery and Organized Medicine, or that we would all sit out there in the audience and speak as we needed to. That's my request. Thank
If
you.
there were going to be that kind of representation, I would like to see California's